You're here to understand what 23andMe is all about, right?
And how does it work?
What does DNA even stand for anyway?
DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Your DNA is organized into 23 pairs of chromosomes, and it can tell you a lot about what makes you, you. You can discover where in the world your DNA comes from. You can even learn how you are connected to others by opting into 23andMe's DNA Relatives feature and connecting with people who share DNA with you. There are fascinating insights about your traits to explore.
Wow.
Artie, it happened inside this condo where Jody used to live. Now, investigators have DNA evidence, but the problem is they haven't been able to match it to anyone.
We had offender DNA from the crime scene. The DNA had been entered into CODIS, but there had been no hit into CODIS. And without a hit in CODIS, there's really no leads or no information to follow up on.
The killer left behind DNA evidence, but investigators couldn't find a match in the National Criminal Database. The case is at a standstill.
I know Art and Lois are surprised. It's a hard thing to tell them not that we don't have any more info. There's no new developments on this case.
That's why Jody's parents are hoping someone will come forward.
The break in the case was a new technique, investigative genealogy. In investigative genealogy, we don't enter DNA into a database of criminals to try to find the criminal, but instead we use open source databases. The one we use is GEDmatch. It's an open source database. It's one that people can put their DNA into from a number of other databases. So you can test with Ancestry.com, 23andMe, MyHeritage, and you can take any of those and put that into GEDmatch yourself. It's got about a little over a million people in it. And usually with that we can get a hit and find out maybe a second cousin or a third cousin. He'd been cremated, so there was no way to get his DNA. However, what we hoped is that we could go to his son and the mother of the son, get DNA from both of them.
They came to the house and had said that they were investigating a cold case from 2007 and had wanted to talk to my son and I, and couldn't imagine why.
Never heard anything about it before, but it kind of, I don't know, felt weird that he was coming to us about it. I wasn't really sure what for.
When Eric Cavan and I went over to the house that night, I felt it was necessary to lay out the entire case and the investigation to explain the need for getting the DNA. Before I was even done explaining, Marisa said, "Well, do you want my DNA?" That shows you the amount of cooperation that they had right from the start. I mean, they're just good people.
About a month later, he came to us and said that I believe the DNA from my swab matched, I think it was, and they ended up pulling something with genealogy, and it ended up being my dad, so it was very heavy. And
I thought, there's no way. There was just no way. I still have a hard time wrapping my head around it. And as we were talking in that conversation, you know, they asked me about clothing and such, and I saw a picture of, a photocopied picture of shoes. And I asked to see them, and as soon as I see them, my gut knew.
When Marisa noticed the shoes, and they were shown a picture of the shoes, she knew absolutely, without a doubt, that those shoes belonged to her ex-husband.
It hit me pretty hard at first, but then I saw what it did to my mom too, so I felt like I kind of needed to be stronger.
That was a hard day.
The cold case murder of a mentally disabled Carlsbad woman has finally been solved.
Investigators say a transient who later committed suicide is responsible for killing 39-year-old Jodine Sarin on Valentine's Day back in 2007.
There's different kinds of courage. There's physical courage, but I also think there's moral courage. And these people exhibited moral courage, and to their detriment, Marisa suffered a lot of social problems. She had to shut down her social media. She had to turn her phone off. She had reporters knocking on her door. She could have easily avoided all that just by saying, no, I don't think I want to help you. But she did the right thing because of the right reason. That's why I think they're deserving of this award.
Two things happened with this case. Jodine has peace, and we had an answer as to why he killed himself. Because for almost 8 years, we blamed ourselves. I blamed myself.
I want them to feel like their daughter's free, because going on almost, 10 years that they haven't heard anything back from the police. They know nothing.
The truth will always come out, and the right thing to do is always the right thing to do.